Your parents are suing you for half your company.
Perfect, because the signature they forged proves who really bankrupted their favorite son.
Claire, wait.
Tell it to the judge.
The morning my parents sued me for $380,000, my mother called and said, "Don't make this ugly. Just give your brother what he deserves." There was only one problem. My brother had never earned a single dollar of it, and by the time I discovered what my parents had hidden inside the lawsuit, I realized they were not trying to save him from bankruptcy. They were trying to bury the evidence that had caused it. Hello. My name is Claire Bennett. I'm 34 years old. I live outside Columbus, Ohio, and until last year, I believed the worst thing my family could do was treat me like I mattered less than my brother. I was wrong. Growing up, my younger brother, Ryan, was the son in our family. My parents arranged their lives around him. If he got a C, they blamed the teacher. If I got an A, they asked why it wasn't an A+. When Ryan quit baseball after 2 practices, Dad said he was exploring his gifts. When I worked weekends to pay for a school trip, Mom told relatives I was obsessed with money. Ryan wasn't cruel when we were children. He didn't have to be. My parents handed him every advantage before he could ask for it. At 17, he crashed Dad's car. They bought him another one. At 18, I asked for help with community college tuition. Dad slid a grocery store job application across the table and told me that struggle built character. So I struggled. I attended classes in the morning, cleaned offices at night, and repaired old furniture on weekends. I learned bookkeeping because I couldn't afford an accountant. I learned online marketing because nobody knew my name. By 21, I had paid off my small student loan, made a down payment on a neglected 2-bedroom house, and turned my furniture restoration side business into a profitable home design company. My parents told people I had gotten lucky. Ryan attended an expensive private college for 6 years, changed majors 3 times, and graduated with a business degree my parents had fully financed. Dad gave him $80,000 to start a luxury renovation company called Bennett Premier Homes. When Ryan landed his first large contract, my parents threw a party. When my company crossed $1 million in annual revenue, Mom sent me a thumbs-up emoji. That was our family in one small picture. Still, I kept trying. I brought food on holidays. I remembered birthdays. I paid for my parents' new furnace when it failed in January. I told myself I was helping because I loved them, not because I hoped they would finally choose me. But hope can survive in embarrassing places. 3 years ago, Ryan asked me to meet him for lunch. He arrived 20 minutes late in a new sports car and spent most of the meal describing a housing development he planned to build north of the city. 32 upscale homes, he said. Clubhouse, private pond, the whole thing. This puts Bennett Premier on the map. Then he asked me for $200,000. I nearly laughed, but his face stayed serious. He said the money would be a short-term bridge loan. He promised 12% interest and full repayment within 18 months. He had beautiful renderings, projected sales, and a thick packet of numbers. I took the packet home and studied it. The land valuation was inflated. The permit schedule was fantasy. Several contractor estimates looked suspiciously low. I emailed him a list of questions and offered to introduce him to a cautious commercial lender. He never answered. 2 days later, Mom called me. "Your brother came to you in good faith," she said. "Why did you humiliate him?" I asked normal business questions. Family doesn't interrogate family. Then family shouldn't ask family for $200,000. She hung up. Ryan got the money somewhere else. His project broke ground 6 months later. My parents posted photographs from the ceremony. Ryan stood in a hard hat holding a gold-painted shovel. Dad's caption said, "Is building a legacy. No one invited me." I muted the family group chat and continued building my own life. My company, Cedar and Stone, had grown from a garage workshop into a regional furniture and interior design business with 28 employees. We restored old pieces, designed custom interiors, and supplied boutique hotels across 3 states. I was proud of it, but I rarely discussed money with my family. Every success became either an insult to Ryan or an opportunity for them to ask for help. Then, one Tuesday morning, Ryan's development stopped. A supplier I knew called and asked whether I had heard the news. Contractors had walked off the property. Payroll checks had bounced. The bank had frozen Ryan's credit line. By that afternoon, liens totaling more than $1 million had been filed against Bennett Premier Homes. Ryan disappeared from social media. Mom called me that evening. Her voice was gentle in a way that made me nervous. "Your brother has had a little cash flow problem," she said. "$1 million in liens isn't little." She paused. "He needs family around him, Claire. Does he need family, or does he need money?" "How can you be so cold?" There it was. The old trick. Ryan's emergency became my moral failure. I told her I would recommend a bankruptcy attorney and nothing more. She said I would regret turning my back on blood. 3 weeks later, a process server arrived at my office. My receptionist, Lena, came to my door looking pale. Behind her stood a man in a gray jacket holding an envelope. He asked my name, handed me the papers, and walked away. The first page said my parents, Daniel and Margaret Bennett, were suing me. They claimed that the money used to start Cedar and Stone had come from a family investment fund. According to the complaint, I had agreed to hold my company's assets for the benefit of both Bennett children. Now that Ryan was bankrupt, they wanted the court to recognize his 50% ownership. They demanded $380,000 immediately, plus a share of future profits. I read it twice. Then I laughed. Not because it was funny, because sometimes the truth is so ugly that your body rejects it as a joke. My parents had never invested in my business. My first tools came from yard sales. My first workbench was a door laid across 2 cabinets. I still had photographs of myself sanding dressers in an unheated garage while wearing 2 coats, but attached to the complaint was a signed agreement. My name was on it. The signature looked like mine, and the document was dated 12 years earlier, when I was 22. For the first time, I felt afraid. I called a business attorney named Evelyn Shaw. She had helped me negotiate hotel contracts and had the calm voice of someone who never wasted panic. I scanned the lawsuit to her. 10 minutes later, she called. "Do not speak to your parents," she said. "Do not speak to your brother. Preserve every email, bank record, tax return. The agreement is fake." "I believe you. Now we prove it." That night, Dad left me a voicemail. "Claire, nobody wants a fight. Ryan made mistakes, but you're in a position to fix this. Sign over the money and we can dismiss the case. If you drag your mother into court, that's on you." He spoke as if I had created the lawsuit. I saved the voicemail in 3 places. The next morning, Evelyn and I began rebuilding my life from receipts. My bank statements showed that I had started Cedar and Stone with $4,700 of my own savings. Tax filings showed sole ownership every year. Vendor records showed no payments from my parents. Every honest document supported me. But the forged agreement had been notarized. The notary was a woman named Patricia Cole. I recognized the name immediately. Patricia had been my mother's closest friend for 20 years. That was the first twist. The second came 2 days later. Evelyn's investigator checked the notary stamp. The commission number printed on the agreement had not existed on the date beside my signature. Patricia received that commission 11 months later. The document could not be genuine. I thought the lawsuit would collapse as soon as we showed the evidence. Evelyn warned me not to celebrate. People who submit an obvious forgery usually do it because they're desperate, she said. Desperate people make more mistakes. We need to know what they're hiding. So we kept digging. Ryan filed for bankruptcy the following week. His records listed millions in debt, dozens of unpaid contractors, and almost no cash. But one line caught Evelyn's attention. 6 months before the collapse, Bennett Premier Homes had paid $640,000 to a consulting company called Northlake Strategies. Northlake had no website, no employees, and a mailing address at a private mailbox store. Its registered manager was my father. I stared at the report in Evelyn's office. Dad was taking money from Ryan's company. That's what it looks like. Why would Ryan allow it? Evelyn turned another page toward me. Northlake had transferred most of the money into an account jointly owned by my parents. From there, $410,000 had gone toward a lake house in Michigan. The house had been purchased in cash. 2 months earlier, Mom had told me they were renting it from a friend. Suddenly, the lawsuit made sense. My parents had helped drain Ryan's company. Creditors were closing in. They needed money to replace what they had taken, or an asset they could claim had always belonged to the family. My company was healthy, valuable, and easy to point at. They weren't rescuing Ryan. They were rescuing themselves. I wanted to confront them. I wanted to drive to their house, put the bank records on the table, and demand that they look me in the eye. Evelyn stopped me. "You will get your chance," she said. "But if they know what we have, they can coordinate their stories." For the next month, I said nothing. It was harder than any fight. Mom sent messages about forgiveness. Dad warned me that legal fees would destroy my business. Ryan finally emailed, saying he had never wanted the lawsuit but hoped I would do the fair thing. I read his message again and again. Then I noticed something strange. He wrote that our parents had always intended the business to belong to both of us. How could he know what they had always intended if he had supposedly learned about the agreement only after bankruptcy? Evelyn requested every version of the document and all communication about it. Their attorney resisted. The judge ordered production. That was when the third twist arrived. Buried in the files was an email from Ryan to Dad, sent 4 days before the lawsuit. Subject: Claire's old signature. The message said, "I found the scanned lease from when she rented the workshop. This one should be clean enough. Have Pat practice before she signs as witness." For several seconds, I could not breathe. Ryan wasn't a helpless son protected by dishonest parents. He had designed the forgery, and my parents had followed his instructions. The betrayal hurt more than the lawsuit. Some foolish part of me had continued believing Ryan was simply weak. I thought he accepted favoritism because it was convenient, not because he wanted to destroy me. But he had searched for my signature. He had planned this. He had looked at the business I built from nothing and decided it was easier to steal my life than face the consequences of his own choices. I went home, sat on the floor of my workshop, and cried. Not for the money. I cried for the little girl who kept waiting to be loved equally. I cried because she had worked so hard to become impossible to dismiss, and her family had responded by forging her name. The next morning, grief became clarity. I told Evelyn I did not want a quiet settlement. "I want the truth in the record," I said. She nodded. Then we stopped defending and started attacking. We filed counterclaims for fraud, civil conspiracy, abuse of process, and damages to my business. We asked for sanctions and referred the forged notarization to the county prosecutor. Ryan's bankruptcy trustee received the North Lake records. Then we subpoenaed the Lake House purchase documents. My parents panicked. Mom appeared at my house on a rainy Sunday evening. She stood beneath the porch light without an umbrella, her hair wet and her mascara running. I kept the door locked and spoke through my camera. "Please," she said. "I need to explain. Explain it to your attorney. Ryan was going to lose everything. So you tried to take everything from me. We thought you would survive it." That sentence was the most honest thing she had ever said to me. They hurt me because I was strong enough to survive. They protected Ryan because they had made him too weak to face consequences. My strength had never earned their respect. It had only made me a safer victim. Mom pressed both hands against the door. "We're your parents. You should have remembered that before you forged my name." I turned off the camera microphone and walked away. 2 days later, Patricia Cole asked to cooperate with investigators. She admitted that Mom had brought her the agreement and begged her to notarize it. Patricia said she had hesitated, but Dad promised it was only leverage for a private family settlement. Then Ryan paid her $10,000 from a hidden account. She gave investigators text messages, draft documents, and a recording. In that recording, my father said, "Claire will settle. She cares too much about appearances to let this reach court." He had misunderstood me completely. I did care about appearances when I was younger. I smiled at holidays. I concealed the insults. I protected the family story because admitting the truth felt like admitting I was unlovable. But shame belongs to the people who create it, not the person they wound. The civil hearing took place 4 months after the lawsuit was filed. My parents sat on one side of the courtroom with Ryan between them. Mom looked small. Dad stared straight ahead. Ryan wore a navy suit and the same confident expression he used at his groundbreaking ceremony. For a moment, I remembered every childhood dinner when the three of them seemed like a complete family and I felt like a guest. Then the judge entered. Their attorney tried to withdraw the agreement. He claimed new information had raised questions about its authenticity and proposed dismissing the case without further conflict. This was not a misunderstanding, she said. It was a coordinated attempt to seize a legitimate business using fabricated evidence. She presented the invalid notary commission, Ryan's email, Patricia's messages, and the financial trail from Bennett Premier to North Lake, and then to the lake house. The courtroom became completely silent. Ryan's confidence disappeared first. Dad leaned toward his attorney and whispered so loudly the judge told him to stop. Mom began crying. I felt no victory yet, only stillness. The judge dismissed their claims with prejudice, meaning they could never bring them again. She ordered my parents and Ryan to pay my legal costs and scheduled a separate proceeding on sanctions and damages. She also directed the clerk to send the record to law enforcement. Outside the courtroom, reporters waited because the bankruptcy had already become local news. Ryan pushed past them. Dad approached me in the hallway. "Are you happy now?" he asked. I looked at him and finally saw the truth. He still believed consequences were something I had done to him. "No," I said, "but I'm free now." The bankruptcy trustee later recovered the lake house as property purchased with misappropriated company funds. It was sold to pay contractors and employees. My parents moved into a small rental apartment. Their retirement accounts were examined, and Dad's consulting company was shut down. Patricia lost her notary commission and pleaded guilty to a lesser charge after cooperating. Ryan faced fraud allegations connected to his bankruptcy disclosures. He also lost his contractor's license. The man who once posted photographs beside luxury homes began selling his furniture and cars to satisfy creditors. My civil counterclaim ended in a settlement. I cannot share every financial detail, but I can tell you this: I recovered my legal fees, compensation for reputational harm, and the remaining legitimate assets of Bennett Premier that could be transferred. Among those assets was a warehouse Ryan had used for storage. I could have sold it. Instead, I turned it into a training center for young adults from difficult homes. Cedar and Stone now offers paid apprenticeships in carpentry, restoration, design, and bookkeeping. We teach skills I once had to learn alone. That became my revenge. Not destroying my family. They had done that themselves. My revenge was taking the structure they built through favoritism and fraud and using it to create opportunities for people who had been overlooked. 6 months after the hearing, Ryan came to my office. Lena asked whether she should call security. I told her to leave the door open. He looked older. No designer watch, no perfect haircut, no performance. "Mom's not doing well," he said. "I'm sorry to hear that. She wants to see you." I waited. "They lost the house," he continued. "Dade says you could help with rent." There it was again. Even after court, bankruptcy, and criminal investigations, he had come to ask what I could give them. "No," I said. His face tightened. "You have more than enough." This was never about whether I had enough. It was about your belief that anything I built became yours when you needed it. They're still our parents. Then you helped them. He looked toward the workshop, where apprentices were sanding a long oak table. "You took my warehouse. Your creditors took it. I bought the claim legally through the settlement. You always wanted to prove you were better than me." I shook my head. "No, Ryan. I wanted you to stop being allowed to prove you were worse without consequences." He left without another word. I did eventually write my mother a letter. I told her I hoped she found peace, but I would not return to the role she had assigned me. I would not be the strong daughter who repaired whatever the favorite son broke. Any future relationship required accountability, honesty, and no request for money. She never answered. For a while, that silence hurt. Then it became peaceful. People sometimes ask whether I regret fighting publicly. They say family disputes should remain private. But secrecy had protected my parents for years. Privacy was the curtain behind which favoritism became entitlement, and entitlement became fraud. The truth did not destroy my family. The truth revealed what they had already destroyed. Today, Cedar and Stone employs 43 people. Our apprenticeship center graduates its first class next month. On the wall hangs my original workbench, the old door across 2 battered cabinets. I kept it to remember where I started. Not with family money, not with special treatment, with $4,700, secondhand tools, and the stubborn belief that my life could become larger than the place my family had given me. My parents sued me because their favorite son went bankrupt. They believed the court would force me to save him one final time. Instead, the courtroom made them face what they had spent a lifetime avoiding. Ryan did not fail because I refused to rescue him. He failed because they never allowed him to fall, learn, or stand on his own. And I did not succeed because they made me strong. I succeeded because, at last, I stopped asking the people who broke my heart for permission to build a life they could not take from me. They tried to steal my name with a forged signature. But in the end, that signature became the evidence that returned my life to its rightful owner, me.